Okay, so in this final video, I'm going to show you kind of how to, get your drawings out of Rhino and to place them in the InDesign document. We're going to kind of cover just the process for that, and then also how to think about the scale of these drawings. And so this one I filled in here a little bit more, although it's still not complete, but I just wanted to add a little more detail to give you guys a sense of like what level of quality we're looking for. Using a variety of kind of blocks to describe the variety of vegetation, the scale, and graphic weight of that, I think, which begins to reveal a larger pattern, and then also a little bit the degree of kind of ground cover. So I have two kind of hatch layers, and I'm kind of shading very lightly areas where we see kind of grass, lighter kind of ground cover, and I'm also kind of shading, see some texture, differences in soil, that kind of thing, just to kind of pick up on the surface qualities of the site. So I'm using like overlap, just drawing these again these outlines on that layer outline, using kind of overlapping regions of hatch texture to kind of start to reveal those things about ground cover, soil. But anyway, so once you are kind of in a good place with your drawing and with your line weights, etc. So I'm going to use zoom 1:1. So I'm looking all the time at my line weights and my graphic scale, at 1:1 as best I can, because that really reveals to me truly what the balance is graphically between patches and my plants and topo lines, all that kind of stuff. If I zoom out, obviously I see larger relationships about the site, but my graphics might read a little different. So I just want to make sure I'm looking at it really at the right level of. The other thing I wanted to point out was one thing that you'll find that happens, you'll see, and kind of read it. Kind of read sometimes when you have all these layers of information, things will start to compete. Things will be in front of other things. For example, when I drew some of these hatches, um, they were covering like my topography line. See that? And so what I really want to do is kind of maintain the order of information in my drawing. And I do that just kind of like what I would do in Photoshop or Illustrator, is I can arrange basically the order. So what I'll do is I'll select um, all my hatches, send to back. So that's the command you use, send to back, bring to front. You can also use bring forward, send backward, but that takes it one step at a time, which I that level of detail. But so I want all my hatches to kind of be the background. I want and my lines, topo line, the outlines of the roads and everything foreground. And others. So that'll just help my drawing properly. So once I'm in a good place with that, I'm going to go ahead and print this, print it to PDF. So I'm typing in print. But remember, we want to set to Rhino PDF. We've already set up a custom page size here, and that's going to be the size of our drawing. I guess one thing we can do, did I look at our page? I go to layout properties. It's 22 by 22. What I probably want to do is actually just, because this is a PDF, well, I'm going to cross here as I'm centered still. Okay. I'm just going to print it right to the full bleed. Normally you wouldn't, right? Because if you're going to print on a plotter, you never print all the way to the end. In this case, we're just going to. So I want to stick to vector input, and also going to use print color. We set the print properties up separately from the layer property. Print color. Output scale should be 1:1. We've already scaled it. Well, but we've already scaled it in our when we put stuff in our layout, so we don't need to scale anything. So I'll just go ahead and click print. Ask me where I want to save it. I'm going to call this and again, because we're doing digital presentations, and also in particular because we're doing these kind of zoom ins, we're going to print it at 600 dpi. So it might take a second or two to print, but so I didn't add more detail to the section, but again, section we'd want to show things like trees and scale figures. We might see those power lines, that's the kind of an add section. Wait for my section. Okay, and then I'm going to go over to my InDesign template. So as you guys know, there's kind of two ways to use this. One is I'm using the old template from project 1.1, but we'll do the same for project 2. So I'm going to go ahead 1.2 and drop in site plan, dragging it in, and I'm dropping it right in that window. So there's two ways you can do it. You can just drop it in. And you'll see this little cursor show up. So I did this with nothing selected. And so if I just go ahead and click once instead of click and drag, that'll place my image in my file at full scale, which is great because then I can keep track of what scale I'm going to. Of course, then I would want to do one of two things. I can scale it back to where it needs to be. So obviously one of my layouts, that window, so that's full scale um, shown on the whole drawing shown on one page. The other thing that being asked is show the drawing somewhat zoomed in, to show a few areas of the drawing zoomed in to some extent. So I'm going to also place it one other method, which is to select that window that's been provided for you that you have to show that drawing. Go to File, Place, select the file. And so you'll see with InDesign, there's the cropping window and then there's the actual drawing, right? So that brown outline is my drawing. The blue is the cropping window. And so I can double click to get to the brown, and I can hold Shift and Alt, scale it back to where it should be, to window. And then I could do the same for these guys. So I could select one, place. Again, it would place it at full scale. Scale it to wherever I want. I can move cropping window, etc. I should point out that when you place something at full scale on its own, you want to edit. So if I just click and drag, I've just cropped it. I haven't resized it. If I hold Control Shift while I crop it, I'm resizing both the cropping boundary and drawing itself, right? That's how you do that. The other thing I wanted to mention quickly, if you do find that your drawing isn't working, like what just happened to me, you can export it to raster sometimes, make that better. which is kind of, it can be beneficial. So when I went to print, I just changed to raster here. Vector can be a little bit heavier in like Adobe applications because every single line is still there in that document. The only difference with raster is it can create larger files. So you can also raster file is about 3 times as big as my my vector version, but it will sometimes load faster because we're going to PDF, right? Change it to pixels. If I go to overprint preview, again, I want to keep it high res because I'm going to zoom in like that, like showing. I want it to be good when I zoom in. Well, there it is, like full resolution. So it doesn't crash. Okay, so I think that should conclude this video. And so just to remind everybody, this is part of the deliverables, is to show pages from this document in which you've placed your orthographics, your site drawing. Not only the full drawings, but also the kind of detail, zoomed in areas, and so on. So make sure that you export to PDF from here, which of course you can do by going to File, Export, save it as a PDF. So you change your name, do the appropriate course and your name, but also be sure to upload full-scale PDFs that you have printed from Rhino to do. Right, and that should